Hey, Toby.
What a week, Greg.
Right?
Yeah, just when we thought everything was starting to get back to normal, we have a whole new set of challenges to work with on both the office and on the job site.
Yes, it's been another unexpected week. We've been reporting our feet on the street, seeing what's happening in the construction sites, and just when we think kind of things have settled down, things change very quickly.
They did, and Greg, maybe talk a little bit about what you're seeing out in the field, on the job sites. I mean, a week ago we were talking about masks, and now we're talking about other significant safety issues.
That's right. And with that, what I had seen in this past week and the week before was actually more of a relaxing protocol of COVID compliance. Not that people were not at all observing, but far less people wearing masks. They were still keeping the social distance, but it seemed like that couple months of fear had really just more relaxed and people were getting into a groove.
Yeah, it did look a little bit back more to normal. I mean, it did vary from location to location, Northern California being a little bit different than Southern California, but still a general feeling of relaxed, normal workflow.
Yeah, I think people are getting used to it. One of our clients up in Seattle who had just stated that they are finally back to work after 8 weeks of being shut down. They are more than excited and motivated to get their project back up and running and have been practicing compliance as well, but construction has definitely been back in full swing.
Yeah, definitely. And what that means for us is we're getting calls to inspect right away. Let's get things going again quickly, and we're reacting as quickly as we can to these.
That's right. The rainy season's behind us, and that pause is over, and now everybody's understanding that the delays are a cost of money.
They are, and that's translating both in the field and in the office. We're seeing a handful of things. We're still dealing with the effects of many people working from home that are not set up to do that.
Yeah.
What that looks like is draws being delayed, paperwork not readily available, and it is slowing down the process significantly. And we have borrowers that are still working with March and even February pay dates and pay apps, and our concern is, what does that do to people not being paid and potential liens, and we are seeing some of that.
Yeah, we're going to talk more in depth about that, but I do want to just jump back into this week's current events and what it's translated to on the job sites. I was down near downtown LA on Monday, coming off some of the protests, and there was some protest gathering. We have a client who's building 2 duplexes on 2 lots that have a house between them, so it's on the same street, and it's right off the freeway. And the first thing I noticed, as I always try to do, I introduce myself to the guys on the job site, tell them who I am. Everybody was very nervous and looked at me even more so with concern about who are you and why are you here. Even though I had my protective gear on, I looked like I belonged on a job site. It was palpable, and so just had to spend a little extra time telling them who I am, why I was there, what I was doing. And they were watching me through the whole process. And that really has never happened before. Also thanked them when I left, and all went well. But as I got out of the car and during the inspection, I heard 3 loud booms at different times. I didn't know if they were fireworks or gunshots. And that surely explained why those guys were nervous, and made me really nervous too.
So clearly they were unnerved by an unknown presence on their project, but what are they doing? Is there more security on the sites? What are they doing to protect the sites from the unknown protesters?
That's a really good question, and that is really site specific. We've got projects that are literally around the corner from them, and they are locked down. We have projects where the workers said to the borrowers, hey, we don't feel safe for coming to work today, so we are not. And I think today will be the first day that the site will be reopened. So in the first example, there wasn't anything except these framers on the site. There was no security. It was just kind of typical business as usual. And we've seen on the other end of the spectrum, total lockdown.
Well, it will be interesting to see what kind of costs are incurred for additional boarding up, security, any additional security guards, anything like that on these projects that have not budgeted for them.
That's right. Yesterday I was in Hollywood, and driving down, it was pretty sobering, down Cahuenga, and this is literally less than half a mile from the job site. Buildings boarded up, significant graffiti, kind of the trail of the large protest that had just happened the prior day. And when I first talked to the project manager on site, he said, "Hey, did you have any problems getting here?" And it wasn't until he asked me that question it hit me, wow, you know what, I didn't even think about or anticipate potentially any problems getting to the site, but there were none, but you could feel the effects of the community. It was just, it's very different out there today.
And certainly right on the heels of the COVID-19 issues.
Yes.
So
that's been, that was obviously completely unexpected, and then you take some civil unrest on top of it, it definitely takes it to the next level as well. So there are effects that we've seen on site, and then additionally, we're talking with some of our subcontractor friends. They had to shut down their offices early because of the curfews. And so they've got to rearrange their day, their schedule, limit the amount of work they were planning on doing to get their people home in time.
Right, and even though some of them weren't stated curfews, some just in the abundance of caution are sending their employees home early, even in the middle of the day,
yes,
just to avoid some of these issues.
And that's super important. We wrote about a particular builder who is taking everybody's temperature, giving them a sticker. And when I asked him, when I asked this gentleman why, or not why are you doing it, were the people who were getting their temperatures taken nervous about it? He said, actually, no, just the opposite. Everybody's relaxed and comfortable because they know that the person working next to them isn't running a fever, right? And they're not running a risk of contracting any kind of sickness. And so as a result, they're getting better productivity from their subcontractors and trade partners. And that's the same thing that happened with the office shutdowns, to your point. It's just everybody is concerned, safety being at the forefront, but mental safety, making sure your associates feel okay or as best they can given the current circumstance.
Right, and are they going to feel good about coming back to work? So many of these offices either shut down, laid off personnel, and are now trying to recover. So what does that recovery look like? Does it look like, as you stated, some sort of health checks coming back to work? What about the ongoing issue with unemployment and luring people back to work? Are we going to see some of those issues, and just the general recovery period of paperwork that was just left on desks, not handled correctly, and we're just trying to recover from that as well. So there's a personnel recovery, there's a job site recovery, there's a lot of activity that we're going to have to overcome to get back to normal.
Yes, even though that initial fear may have subsided from COVID, to your point, that adjustment's still going on. It's still real and it's still fluid. And with that, Toby, let's talk about that because one of our favorite terms is the law of unintended consequences. And having COVID requiring people to work remotely, they're not working as efficiently as they were when they were in the office. And we are now seeing draws getting submitted less regularly, with less consistency than they were previously.
Yes, and they're being submitted late, oftentimes several months late. And what that does is it just creates a very perfect environment for liens, and we are starting to see some of that as well. So if you're, again, like I mentioned earlier, if you're dealing with a February or March pay-up, and this is now June, we may be able to process that application, but what happened between then and today, we're seeing liens filed on activity that we haven't seen any paperwork for because the subcontractors are very eager to get paid, pay their people, and yet the offices are just not caught up yet. And we think that's going to take a while. I mean, we're actually encouraging some of our borrowers to submit more than one at a time so we can push them through quicker. So if they're missing February, March, April, we'll ask them, maybe you can submit them all at the same time. And we can help them catch up, which we've been really trying to do. So, and again, add to that equation that a lot of the paperwork required to fill out a draw appropriately, it resides in an office with the employee residing at home working. So we really haven't seen those that work well yet. So we're hoping. On the flip side, we think people are going to be working at home for a while. So this may be the new normal, may not be, but it is at this point reasonably inefficient.
Yeah, it is, and I think in order to preserve the health of the project, it's important to communicate the risks, and you did so perfectly with that prior point. But that's just one of many. And another big risk is not getting your subs and suppliers paid on a timely basis. And there's still a lot of work out there, and there's still constricted manpower, and there are choices. And cash is still king. We see those job sites and those projects that pay the fastest, they get the most manpower. And we've recently seen subs refuse to show up because they haven't been paid. Well, that's a big risk.
It is. It is. And we would, again, we've been helping our borrowers and are helping our contractors catch up to the extent they can, but it remains a problem. I mean, even to the extent, again, going back to our earlier example, I mean, if you've got 3 months of unbilled time, the chances of them being change orders that we are completely unaware of that could unbalance a budget are also a concern, and we have seen that as well.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the interest reserve on the loan is still clicking away, and all the other general conditions costs are still being absorbed month over month. So what do you think are some solutions we can offer our clients to try to get more efficient and be more consistent in submitting their draws?
I think they need to be a priority. I think the connection between a draw and everybody getting paid really needs to be front and center. So we know, and the discipline of a schedule. So regardless, even if it's a small draw, a draw is done every month or every reasonable period of time that makes sense. So that would generally coincide with a billing period of a general contractor or subcontractors. Those contractors and borrowers that have very disciplined schedules are doing well right now. I mean, they're needing a little bit of help. They're limping along, but they're getting it done because of the discipline. And communicating with them, communicating with the lenders that, you may have a schedule issue. We communicate with lenders every month on when we really believe the contract will be done or when the project will be done. Regardless of what anyone else says, we will opine on that. And that's been very helpful because when a project is delayed, there's significant costs associated with that. So just communicating that, just yesterday I communicated with one of our lenders that their interest reserve is going to be over this month on one of their big projects. Yeah. And they were unaware of that. So that kind of communication is important. We keep an eye on that, on the projects that we have the information, but I think this is going to be a very expensive period of time, and both in time and money.
Yeah, I think you're right on with it's the discipline. It's just practicing the fundamentals, getting a schedule and sticking to it, and also raising your hand and saying, hey, I've got a challenge this month. Can we work through this, or what do you guys think so we can keep this going? We want to make sure that the jobs are well capitalized, that capital gets deployed, that everybody gets paid timely. It really does preserve the health of the project, and I think there are ways to improve that as we go forward from a remote location.
Well, be safe and be careful, and take care of your employees and your job sites. And we look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks, Toby.